It's now a foggy morning on April 1st. We've reached April Fool's Day. We are on the Plank Road in Elenberg. See some very nice rock exposed here along the way. But also exposed is the bottom of the roadway, as the road once again washed out on the Plank Road. There are barricades saying this road was closed, and of course a lot of times people ignore those. Anybody driving through here at night, or even today in the fog, as we see these cars here, two trucks coming. Anybody coming along here not knowing about the damage here could find themselves in a very serious situation. So even though you don't see any standing water, or even if you do see some standing water, and the sign says road is closed, there's probably a good reason for it, and there certainly is here on the Plank Road. We're as close as the mud will allow us to get to the McGregor Dam here in Elenberg, behind the depot. A lot of sand has been brought in. In fact, you see a sand pile right here. And the sand you're looking at is very thick and sticky. But yesterday, while we were in Altona, efforts were underway here to shore up this dam, and what we've read in today's newspaper, the efforts have been successful. Town Supervisor Michelle Toloski noticed the dam was in serious trouble, and efforts were quickly put underway, and the dam has been shored up. Unfortunately, we can't get any closer than this without walking through knee-deep mud, so this is as close a view as we're going to get on this April 1st. And of course the fog doesn't help our picture any. Very foggy morning. And here's what we had to walk through to get here, so it's been an effort just to get this far. We've moved now to the McGregor Dam, and it looks like they're putting police lines, or ropes, to keep people away from the barn. As bad a shape as the barn was before, it's really suffered a lot, and this will probably be the last April 1st that this barn will be here. If you listen to the town board meeting, the latest Elenberg town board meeting on Hometown Cable, the McGregor Dam and the McGregor Dam were both subjects of discussion. When the board members were talking about these dams, they knew they had problems in the future. They didn't realize that they were going to come this quick. And while I'm thinking of it, I want to compliment the efforts that the Press Republican has shown in covering this flood. Shan Moore just seems to have been everywhere at once. She has done an outstanding job of reporting the situations throughout the northern tier. And the photos taken by Dave Pasek have been outstanding. We sometimes, like a lot of people, complain about the news media, but with the ice storm book that they recently put out and the way they've covered this flood situation in the North Country, I think they certainly be commended. We now move to a more tranquil scene on the Cannons Corners Road. Just a little water trickling through. But obviously that hasn't been the case right along. This section here wiped out by rushing waters. And looks like there's a barricade up ahead. I'm not sure if it's for this washout or if there's another washout up ahead. We're just maybe 1,000 feet, 500 to 1,000 feet away from Route 11 on the Cannons Corners Road. Now on the Alder Bend Road, right in beautiful downtown Irona, at the intersection of the Irona Forest Road and the Alder Bend Road. And again, referring back to 1996, this spot here got a lot of water, and it looks like it did again, as we see washout on both sides of the road. And this year it looks like the Bushy family received a little help. They had water rushing right through their yard in November of '96. These are all sandbags. The whole yard here has been sandbagged. They just might leave them there year round. They had water rushing right under the bottom of their house back in November of '96, and this year looks like they got some help. Alder Bend Road heading in, I guess would be a southwesterly direction, is closed. One of the North Country's most beautiful spots, Woods Falls. We've moved our camera to Parries Mills, where the Parries Mills Road and North Star Road meet. The flood of '96 had no tragedies in it. And as of this taping, we're hoping that this story here will have a happy ending. But yesterday morning, a 2-year-old daughter of Jim and Susan Sorrell somehow ended up in this ditch here, and we all know how 2-year-olds can disappear without warning. Water obviously was rushing a lot more than it is today, and she floated through a series of culverts down this ditch and was found right across from the Richard residence down here by, according to the paper, her uncle Guy Coupel was one of the first ones there to find her. But the rushing water brought her through these culverts. Mr. St. Denis and Dan Bayshard applied CPR to keep her breathing until the ambulances arrived. She's now in the hospital in Burlington, and they're hoping that pneumonia won't set in and the story will have a happy ending, but at this point we don't know. We moved into the village of Champlain. Just a few puddles remain on Main Street. I would assume there's still high water on River Street at this point, and our tree is still there as we approach noon on April 1st. We have come to the opposite side of the bridge to see the opposite side of that tree that's dangling in there. And we have found out from Todd Jarvis, who lives right here on the corner, that this is the gas pipeline. The one we've been looking at on the other side is a sewer. And this is a gas pipeline, and as far as we know, the gas is still flowing through there. Our battery died just as we were finishing up in Champlain, so I'm not sure if our last words or two were on that tape. All that water that we've seen flowing is all heading in one direction, and that, of course, is Lake Champlain. We're on the shores of Lake Champlain, near the Stony Point Road, just outside the village of Rouse's Point limits. We've just drove through the village, and so far there's no flooding down there. Anybody walking on the lake today, I would assume, would have to know what the heck they're doing. We see 4 ice fishermen out here, and they are walking hopefully where it's very shallow, because I wouldn't trust the ice in a deep area today. Hopefully they know what the water is like underneath. Our story will end on the Point of Fair Road, which is thus far high and dry. These campers here give an indication of what might be to come here. This is a notorious area for flooding. This area is flooded at the moment, but nowhere near what we have seen here in the past. So this will wrap up our coverage. Hopefully we won't be back along the Lake Champlain shore next week to cover lake flooding, and hopefully our river flooding is now behind us. So for Hometown Cable, this is Calvin Castine. We thank you for joining us today. Well, I thought that was the end of the story. If Paul Harvey was here, he'd say, now for the rest of the story. This is on Route 9B, maybe 350 to 500 feet from BB's store, a little bit to the east of BB's. And the Rouse's Point Fire Department is here sandbagging. This home has been surrounded by water. Water trying to get into Lake Champlain is being backed up now as we approach the lake area. Looks like Channel 5 is on the scene. And an all too familiar sight. I have a feeling this story is a long ways from being over. The generators, and the sump pumps, looks like they've given out. Trying to pump out that basement. So for April 1st, 1998, we're going to call it a day, but I think as we get closer to the lake, this problem will only increase for those people in the areas near Lake Champlain.